Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today on this Thursday evening. I'm happy that we're here together. My name is Naisha, and I am the program coordinator, program manager with the Holden Space Foundation. And we're excited to have you all. This is our second time with our lovely speaker, our facilitator of tonight's workshop, Sundari Malcolm. And I just want to give you a quick introduction. In 2007, at 27 years old, after 7 years of being her caregiver, Sundari lost her mother to breast cancer. 4 years later, her father died of the complications of brain cancer. And those experiences redirected her life, and Sundari has made it a mission to equip people with the tools they need to manage life's greatest transitions. She's a birth, grief, and death doula, a yoga, breathwork, and meditation teacher, a contributor to Help Text, and a grief expert with the For Grief Speakers Bureau. Sundari is the author of the book Grief Gems and the founder of a Healing Doula Academy. And I'll make sure I'll share all those links with you all. And at the moment, I'm going to pass it over to Sundari. Thank you so much.
Hello, everyone. Before I begin, I'm going to leave a message for you in the chat that I'd love for you to have a look at as I'm talking. And if you feel comfortable and called to do so, then you may also leave your names. Okay, are we all ready? So, as Naisha has mentioned, my name is Sundari Malcolm, and I'm a birth, grief, and death doula, author of Grief Gems, and the founder of a Healing Doula Academy. Welcome to Sacred Space for Sorrow, rituals for navigating grief during the holidays, and thank you for being here today. So, I'd love to explain why I've created this workshop and what you can expect this evening. And if at any point you'd like to comment or ask a question, please feel free to use the chat or you can raise your hand, and I will try my best to keep an eye on that as we move along. So, while I live in Germany now, I'm originally from Harlem, New York, and I was raised between Harlem and a spiritual community in Virginia. Both of my parents were teachers, but they were also deeply into yoga and meditation. And I come from a long line of hoodoo and obeya root workers. As she mentioned, when I was 20, my mother was diagnosed with recurrent breast cancer. And so I would spend the next 7 years as her sole caregiver until she died. And my father died from brain cancer 4 years later. And though I had been raised with holistic teachings at the time of their death, I was a PR girl and I was not leaning in on any way of any of the tools I had grown up with. But grief knocked me on my ass, as it does to most of us. So I spent a year laying on my couch, watching the Food Network, mostly sobbing. And then eventually it became clear that I needed something to shift. So even then, I was aware that grief wasn't something I was going to get over, but I needed to learn how to walk with it. And I needed to understand who I was now that they were dead. And so I started taking retreats and classes and practicing things at home. And little by little, I could feel parts of myself returning. I was becoming more clear headed. And I could feel in my body what a difference integrating these tools into my life made. And that changed everything, both professionally and personally. And here we are 18 years later. So if you are here today, then you're also walking with grief. And maybe it's recent, maybe like me, it's become a long time companion. You're likely experiencing the loss of a person, but so many are also dealing with the loss of jobs right now, right? Food security, loss of healthcare. We're watching people that look like us be deported in record numbers. This is an overwhelming time. And even if you're not experiencing those things personally, you're witnessing them. And that's grief, and that's heavy. One of the biggest and first ways that grief shows up is in our disconnection from our bodies. So, how many of you in your grief have caught yourself holding your breath throughout your day? right? Or clenching your jaw more than usual? Or who's noticed how foggy it can get or how untethered you can feel from what's going on around you? You can raise your hand, you can leave a little heart emoji if that resonates with you. But what I know, thank you, Crystal, is that practices like we're going to experience today, breath work, gentle movement, are a really beautiful way to reconnect. And I also know that incorporating even the most simplest of ancestral rituals into our lives can offer us the space we need to find a bit more clarity and focus again, and maybe even invite in a new kind of connection with those we've lost. Now, the truth is that you might say, well, who wants to connect back to a reality that can feel so crappy at times, or back to a body that feels sad or mad most of the time? And those are really valid questions. One big reason is this: the saying, the body keeps score, is not just a catchy phrase. Our bodies are much more intelligent than we give them credit for. So it's smart enough to hold on to our pain until it feels safe enough to release it. And it's also programmed to remind us physically when it's begun to hold on for too long. So cue the stomach issues, skin issues, autoimmune disorders, and the list can go on for grievers, right? And that autoimmune one specifically for women of color. Remaining disconnected is just not a sustainable practice. Another reason why reconnecting is so important is that you deserve to feel firmly rooted and safe and joyful in this season and in every other. And to arrive there authentically will mean that you have to tune in more than you tune out. But why are these practices so important during the holiday season? I'm going to share my slides for a moment. And thank you for those who are in the chat right now. Okay. Can everyone see this? So why are these practices so important during the holiday season? I like to call it the holiday framework. So heightened expectations. We're surrounded by messages to be merry and grateful and be together. And for those in grief, this can feel like a pressure to perform happiness, right? I'm going to share these slides with Naisha, who will share these with you, by the way. Overstimulation. So the lights, the gathering, the travel, the constant noise can overwhelm the senses and the nervous system. Loneliness. Even in a crowded room, grief can feel isolating. So missing loved ones or familiar traditions really deepen that sense of separation. The pressure the pressure to feel responsible for keeping things normal for others, even when we're dealing with loss and pain. The disrupted traditions. When someone is gone, familiar rituals shift, and what used to be comforting might now feel painful. The anxiety and anticipation, the buildup to the holidays, a lot of us know this as grievers. It starts way before Thanksgiving Day, right? Way before Christmas. The buildup to the holidays triggers anxiety about the gatherings, the expectations, the triggers, all of it. And then it's this idea of now it's the end of the year, which often invites reflection. And so we start thinking about our loss or how much we've grown or how we're transitioning. And all of this surfaces deep emotion. What I hope is that our time here today is the beginning or the expansion of the season where you make more time for yourself. So we're going to begin with breath work. And then you'll have the chance to learn a few of my favorite simple but powerful rituals. And we'll move a little and then we'll chat. Hopefully, you've gathered your ritual items. I know that this was involved in the workshop description, but if you haven't, I'm going to add them to the chat later, just in case. And I'll give you time before our first one to gather them. Okay? Is everyone ready? Shake your heads, wiggle your fingers, stretch your arms. Okay. So I'm going to share some music. Excuse me. And you'll let me know if you can hear it. You're going to be making yourself as comfortable as possible. And for the duration of our time together, I really want you to set the mood in your space. Dim your lights, light your candles, have something hydrating near you. When we grieve, our nervous system often shifts into a state of contraction. And the sympathetic fight, flight, or freeze response, our breath becomes shallow and it's held high in the chest, signaling to the body that it is unsafe. And over time, this constriction can increase anxiety and emotional overwhelm. So, intentional breath work, like inhaling through the nose for 4 counts and exhaling through 6, gently rebalances the nervous system. It's going to activate your vagus nerve and slow your heart rate. It's going to invite rest and restore. TCM, so traditional Chinese medicine, from their perspective, grief is associated with the lungs, which is the organ of release and letting go. And when we suppress emotion or hold on to loss, that energy can stagnate in the chest, which makes us feel even heavier, even sadder. The kidneys are understood as the seat of vitality and courage. Also, they support us in the processing of deep sorrow and fear. So breath work becomes a bridge between these two systems. The lungs receive breath, helping us release what we can no longer hold. The kidneys anchor us, offering stability as we navigate change. So as you practice this simple breath, I'd like you to imagine each breath as a small act of release, renewal, not to fix grief, but just to allow it to shift and move. You can turn away from your camera, turn your camera off. The eyes can be closed or gently open. Relax your legs. Feel your hips soften in your seat. And feel your belly relax. Feel your chest relax. Your arms are a little heavier. Let your fingers relax. Let the muscles of your face soften. We're going to inhale through the nose to the count of 4. Exhaling through the mouth to the count of 6. Through the nose to the count of 4. Out the mouth to the count of 6. If the mind begins to wander, just come back to the count of your breath. Notice where in the body as you breathe does the breath stop? Where do you feel more contraction than expansion? No judgment, just noticing. Wherever you notice the contraction, the stop, the restriction, send your breath there. Meet your grief where it is.
I can hear you now. The story circles, it comes back around. We chant a call and watch them all go through. That door I never saw, I never knew. Me and you, we come from earth and water. Straight from that mountain's daughter. Back to the mother, we must journey now.
Taking 3 more breaths this way.
Branches in the ground, those roots and sky open third eye up past the neck around. Inside the heart is that eternal space. That melody showed me my own true face. You chant a call, I chant a call. All in the one, one in the all. Love on the rise, it never falls. Reach out your hand and I can pull you in. Reach out your hand and I can pull you in.
At the end of the 3rd exhale, Relaxing the breath, bringing one hand over the belly and one hand over the heart space. Just connecting back to your body, connecting to those you brought in, connecting to your breath. Sitting for a few moments in silence, bringing your hands to your lap. Before you come back to the screen, stretching your arms and your legs, giving a twist in your chair in each direction. Taking a moment to check in with yourself. This work doesn't always feel good. And so I want to give you permission to feel whatever is coming up. This excavates, it uncovers, it unearths. And so if it is feeling uncomfortable or heavier, that's okay. You can use the chat to leave a word about how that felt for you. My suggestion on a breathwork practice like this is to think about setting aside 10 minutes. That's all we did. 2 to 3 times a week. I do this every day. But if you are starting out with this 2 to 3 times a week and making this an intentional part of your day, count the breath. Why do we count the breath? Because the mind, we call it Shiti Nirvana in yoga, right? It's like the monkey mind. The mind likes to hop from tree to tree. It likes to chatter, right? The count is what keeps you focused. So I suggest if you are new to breathwork or meditation, or it's just one of those days where the monkey is like super, super loud, that you give yourself that count, that you quiet yourself down, that you place a hand on heart and on belly, that you reconnect to yourself, parent yourself, right? Okay. So before we move on, I want to make sure that you have your items for our rituals. So this list was included in your workshop emails, but I'm going to add it to the chat because I'm going to give you a couple moments to gather what you can. And for the flowers that were on here, if you were not able to source flowers, that is okay. If you have an extra piece of paper, we can use paper in place of petals, okay? So I'm just gonna look for, let me give this to you. Reflective. Thank you, Patricia. Patricia put in a word of how that breath practice felt for her. Oh, you're welcome, Shay. So everyone has their items, grounding. This is the time that you're gathering them. So it's a candle, matches, 2 small bowls. That's it. Actually, you can just do, I'm going to switch some stuff around. You can skip the 2 small bowls if you don't have them. The flowers can sub paper if you don't have flowers right now. Okay. You're going to use a bowl for your flowers, a notebook and a pen. The incense societies always have incense burning in my background. I enjoy the scent. It's always important to engage all senses. I'm going to give you one more moment. Grounding, somber. Hello, Elizabeth Phillips. Good to see you. Robin allowed me to close out the day. One more moment. And I'll begin talking. So if people are gathering their items, you can just hear me chat. Are there folks in the room who are ready? You can use the chat and let me know. You can use your emojis too. Thank you, Crystal. I like your thumbs up. Thank you, Renee. Naisha. Okay, so across ancient and indigenous cultures, mourning, thank you, Sharada, and celebration were never separate. They flowed together, thank you, Elizabeth, as part of the same sacred rhythm of life. So grief was not something that indigenous ancient cultures hid or tried to fix or tried to overcome. It was something to honor and express, and most importantly, to move through collectively. It is real Western, right? And real new to try to heal in a vacuum, to heal in siloed. We used to heal in community, in groups, which is why circles like this are important. In many traditions, rituals of mourning, chanting, drumming, dancing, wailing, lighting candles, sitting in silence, they were woven together with rituals of remembrance and renewal. So tears and song existed side by side. Death wasn't looked at as an end, it was looked at as a passage or transformation that called us, the living, to reflect and release and reconnect with the cycles of nature and ancestry. And these cultures understood what modern society often forgets, which is that ritual gives form to what feels formless. Let's say that again. Ritual gives form to what feels formless. It offers the body and spirit a way to return to rhythm. Because through ritual, our grief is witnessed and it's held and it's slowly integrated so that what's been broken can find its place in what becomes the story of the rest of life. Okay. Before we get into that, I want to talk about something real quick that I always like to bring up. Okay. Oh, this was my my slide for you. Hold on. Give me one moment so I can make sure I'm sharing this correctly. So you don't have to look at all my stuff. Okay. This was the slide about the lungs. Let me move this up. Okay. I have all these things. Everyone can see this. So something I like to talk about before we get into rituals is while yes, I was raised with two Black hippies as parents, I was also raised in the church, Sunday school, choir, and my mom went back to school to receive her theological degree before she died. As someone who grew up in a Black church, I'm super aware of how sometimes we bristle at the word ritual or get uncomfortable with the idea of connecting with our ancestors. As Christianity spread across Europe and Africa and the Americas, many indigenous and ancestral traditions which honored the earth, the dead, cyclical life were rebranded as superstitious or demonic or pagan. And these labels served only to suppress spirituality, but to replace communal ritual with authority and power. And so something that I like for folks to think about for a moment is what might have been gained politically, socially, or economically by labeling our practices as evil? You can use the chat if you feel like answering, or if you just want to think about it. How does fear become a tool for erasing our connection to our nature and the body and our ancestors? What do you think was lost collectively, personally, when rituals of mourning, birth, transformation were stripped from our communities? These practices predate what they deemed as witchcraft. There are images of yoga, of the harnessing of chi, of prana, which is breath or life force energy, of ritual on ancient cave walls in ancient scriptures. These practices are not new age. They belong to people who look just like you, who with time were forced to assimilate and hide, and then eventually began to pass down the same dogma generation by generation. So as we witness a world that's restructuring its systems and beliefs, perhaps it's a time to do the same internally. And to think for a moment, what of the oppressor's beliefs am I still carrying as my own? And how is that interfering with my own healing and wellness? We lost our power, policing of how cultures mourn, suppressing. Yes, absolutely. Please feel free to read everyone's comments in here. Suppressing community knowledge. Fire. That's going to be our first ritual together. Fire has been honored in ancient spiritual traditions as the element of transformation, purification, and divine light. It represents the bridge between the seen and unseen, that spark of spirit that endures through change. Lighting a candle invites us to remember that even in the darkness, there's still warmth and presence. It reminds us that grief can transform, and that love, when offered to the flame, becomes light. In this ritual, the candle is not only a symbol of remembrance, but a living act of devotion. So I'd like you to have your candle by you, your lighter or your matches, your pen and your paper. And I'm going to take mine. Let's bring our candles in front of us as I play some music. I'd like you to light your candle. Taking a gentle inhale and exhale. And for just a few moments, I'd like you to just gaze at the candle flame. Allowing the eyes to soften. Candle gazing is an ancient technique to still the mind. Again, if the mind is becoming too jumpy for you, you can count your breath, but just keep coming back to your flame. Automatic writing is the practice of allowing words to flow without conscious control. Excuse me. And automatic writing has deep roots in ancient forms of divination and spiritual communication. because long before it was named, many of our cultures believed that marking symbols or writing while in a trance-like state allowed messages from the unseen world to come through. In ancient China, oracle bone script was inscribed after diviners entered meditative or ritual states. Indigenous and shamanic traditions, symbols and writings offered healing, insight, and prophecy. Greece used trance to bring forth divine messages. This is not a modern invention. And so as we sit and breathe, we're going to apply this beautiful ancient technique. And so usually when we write, we think of grammar and penmanship and what will someone think if they see this. For this practice, no one is going to see this. There is no grammar needed or punctuation. In fact, the point of it is just to move your pen across the paper and let whatever needs to come out, come out. And the first question that we're asking ourselves is, how have I grown in my grief? I understand people better. I started reading more. I became softer. I started saying no more. Just right. We're so hard on ourselves. Let your subconscious answer for you. How have you grown? Less mind, more heart. And just be words or full sentences. And now switch. You can come back to that at another time. What do I feel ready to receive that will help me with the months ahead? So sitting in community more often, asking for help, learning a new hobby, eating better. What do I feel ready to receive that will help me with the months ahead? Let this be the season that we start asking for help when we need it. That we are more open to receiving the help of others, the grace of others, perhaps just the grace of ourselves. The second question is, what do I feel ready to receive that will help me with the months ahead? That can be things like community, deeper friendships, whatever you want it to be.
This is it, love, this is it, love, unrestrainable nature. We can change it from the edges, we can challenge all our borders. There is always a new leader, there's always a new order. Our pathway is proceeding and the
You can go back to the first question if you want. You can stay with this. We're not thinking, we're just writing. How have I grown, or what do I feel ready to receive? One more minute. Imagine it just bubbling out of you. Put your truth down on your page.
Free from all old stories I've been told. I walk through the valley of my own shadow. We are free.
Hands down.
Awareness is my
One hand on your heart as you gaze back at your candle.
within my own mind and to trust the intuition of the lives I've lived.
Deeply breathing.
It's our essential form of gnosis. It's a simple form of freedom, smooth as inhalation and the exhale.
Feeling grateful for creating more space within when you put words to paper. Allowing your subconscious to speak through you.
And I'm here now, right before
Sometimes our ego mind gets in the way.
this moment, and our life's work is to honor the beauty all around you.
Okay. Short practice, right? But powerful practice. Was anyone surprised by what came up that they wrote? Did anyone find it difficult to get out of their head? This isn't a formal space. You can just come off mute. You can talk. When you look back at what you read, is there anything that surprises you?
I didn't ever think of it this way, but I learned in my grief, because I grieved twice. My mother had a stroke, a massive stroke that left her quadriplegic. And so for 5 years, we took care of her, but she was not mom. And so being able to, my dad died suddenly, and then I was left to take over. And escorting her out, giving her permission because she was lingering. And I told her, it's okay. We will be fine. Her caregiver was upset with me that I said that I said, go ahead and go. It's okay. And I felt empowered and I felt like I was an adult, even though I was a grown woman 10 years ago. But it dawned on me that I felt privileged and I felt like an adult to plan. I planned my father's funeral 6 months before that. And so I knew what to do and I was empowered. And 10 years later, I still feel that way. It was a privilege.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, Lorraine. I think, this practice, we did a short version. My suggestion is to think about setting time aside like once a month, right? And making this an intentional ritual. Why? Because just what Lorraine said, sometimes there's things that we just either have not recognized or haven't thought about in a while or haven't given ourselves permission to really sit in or sit with. Right? Sometimes it feels strange to say things to ourselves like, well, I feel really proud of what I did. I feel grateful, or I felt lighter after this, or I'm really angry, or I need more help than I've been asked, whatever it is. There's so much that's in here, right? That's like down here. You do the breath work first because that's what clears space. So I see your comment, Tasha, about, yeah, the first one was hard, right? This one was easier. That's always why we start with breath work, because we come in blocked. We come in, the ego mind is loud. We come in like, oh, okay, we'll see what this is, right? Our body does not feel safe enough yet. That's what we spoke about in the beginning. So the breath work is the gateway. It's the reminder to your body that you are safe now. It's a reminder to your nervous system what rest can feel like, what peace can feel like. And the rituals that follow through powerfully, because you have reminded the conscious mind that it can take a step back. And the subconscious can begin to speak to you about what it needs or how well you're doing, which we often don't give ourselves enough credit for. Allowed me to put some words to feelings that came up as I honored my father. Beautiful. We're going to do our last ritual. It's going to be quick. I know, Naisha, we have 10 minutes, but I really love this next one. And I want to make sure that we do this together and that you guys take this with you. Okay, so you have your bowls. Your bowl does not have to be this big. It's just a bowl. But we have a bowl and we have flowers, right? Okay, so I'm just going to explain what we're doing. And then I'm going to play some music and you're going to do this for a few moments. So this is a Japanese ritual that I fell in love with years and years and years ago. And I may not be pronouncing this correctly, kuyo, but it is a blessing bowl. And it's a way to bring in remembrance. And it's a really beautiful thing to do collectively. And I'll explain at the end of this how you might do this with groups of people. But we'll do this in our little individual spaces now. If you have your flowers, then each time, I'll explain it in a moment, but you'll be picking petals off of them and putting them in your bowl. If you don't have your flowers, then you can just use a piece of paper and tear up those pieces of paper to symbolize your flower. I'm waving it above the camera to symbolize your flowers, okay? So the idea is to create a physical symbol of things of legacy and gratitude, right? So in this bowl, you're going to name aloud in your space gifts that the people who have died left you. So what does that mean? I pick a flower for kindness, right? I might pick a flower for a sense of humor, for my like dope ass macaroni and cheese recipe, right? Like that's what we're doing. So I'm going to play some music and we're going to take a few moments and take your time with this. I want you to connect with your flower or your paper or the idea of your flower first. And then really think about your people and think about the gifts they've left you. And with each one, I want you to say it aloud because in essence, we are speaking to our ancestors as we do this. And then drop your flowers in your bowl and we'll come back together. Okay. Okay.
Free from all old stories I've been told, I walk through the valley of my own shadow. Free from all old stories I've been told, I walk through the valley of my own shadow.
And if you feel as though you've come to the end of your words, spend a few moments just gazing at your bowl, at all of the flower petals or pieces of paper that are in them, all of the gifts that have been left with you, that have become you. All that are your ancestors. The ones we love don't leave, they change form. In the flicker of our candles, in our breath, in our petals, they remain. Deeply breathing, sending the ancestors gratitude for all they have left you with. Taking one more moment here. And then take two big breaths. And when you're ready, you can come back to your screen. So for me, you can keep going while I'm chatting. I take my flower petals and I like to dry them out. So if you can dry them out outside in the windowsill, if you have a dehydrator, you can put them in the oven on really, really low so you don't turn them on fire. But you can dry them out. And then I keep them on my altar. And that is my reminder when I see them that these are all my gifts, right, from my ancestors. And when I am feeling disconnected or feeling like an orphan at the grown age of 45, I put my hand in here, right? And I touch them. And it is a physical, tangible reminder for me of, no, I still have all of this. I have a client who, when I taught her this ritual, her family has done this in such a cute way, and I just wanted to share this, that they use candy instead of flower petals. And so they named their words and they put it in a big bowl. And whenever someone is feeling low or really griefy, you go and eat a piece, right? And so, like, you're eating a piece of hope, you're eating a piece of dream, you're eating a piece of happiness. And I just thought that was such a cool way of, like, everyone's involved. The whole family knows what that bowl is and understands that they go to it to really sustain yourself, right? Nourish yourself with your ancestors. I love that. I suggest for this one, once a month, whenever you feel called to it. I love a ritual, so I'm going to tell you to do them every week, but I understand that that is not for everyone. So once a month, I suggest it. Just want to open the space now. I know we are getting close on time. But if anyone would like to come in and just offer any reflections in the chat or raise your hand and give a quick note about how this felt for you or what you are leaving with, then we're all happy to hear, to read.
Hi, this is Liz. I
Mhm.
wanted to send this email to a bunch of people, and I was resisting. I had such resistance about showing up myself,
Mm,
but this is what I absolutely needed for myself. So
good.
thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you for being here.
I found, I believe, the connection that I needed to seek more clarity with my ancestors. Um,
Mm,
Certain things I need to be doing, and this is an avenue, a tool to help me be more focused and able to hear what I need to do.
I love that. Thank you.
I'd love to share really quick how have I grown in my grief, fully understanding there's no timeline. Um, I
Yes.
can say I know in America, when we get 2 to 3, maybe 4 days of bereavement, quote unquote, and you're supposed to
Yes.
come back to work and smile. There's no timeline. And one more thing is understanding my smile and tears are welcome at the same time. They don't have to be separate.
Mm, absolutely. That's what this grief is, right? You have to get really good at holding both at the same time. Anyone else? Denise in the chat says, I'm leaving with gratitude for the gifts.
I'd say this evening has been really emotional. My grandmother's what would have been her 102nd birthday is Sunday, and this will be my
Mm,
first year without both my mother and my grandmother. And so I had a whole meltdown right before this, and having this space has just been really helpful. So thank
happy
you.
birthday to your grandmother.
Thank you.
These spaces are important, right? Sitting in community is important. Giving voice to what we are moving through is important. Remembering these practices and that they are ours is important. This is a release and a way to honor my loved ones. I did not realize I created an altar, my daughters told me. I love an altar.
I was just going to add that this definitely felt validating. I recently lost my brother, so I like immediately thought to make an altar, to do flowers, like candles, and it didn't make sense, but I did it. So
Yeah,
thank you for just like validating and giving me the language for doing or helping
you're
understand
so
why I did it.
welcome. You're so welcome. Altars are important. Here's the thing, like an altar gives you a physical place to sit at and commune, right? Yes, your grief walks with you. We know it's attached to us all the time, but to have a place where you are intentional about your healing, your wellness, about your communication with your ancestors, about checking in with yourself, about extending grace, about honoring those who have passed. That's important. This idea that we should just like tuck it in the back pocket and keep it rocking is weird, right? We should be avoiding that at all costs. Honor your people, honor yourself. And to me, an altar is as much about honoring myself as it is those that have passed, because each time I sit down, there's a new version of me that shows up, right? There is a new level of grief to meet with. There's also just time for me to be proud of myself that I'm still here after all this, right? Sometimes you got to say, good job. Anyone else before we take a deep breath together? So left hand on heart. Why? Because left hand is the hand of receiving from the ancestors. Right hand is the hand of giving. So left hand over the heart, because we are letting them know that the heart is open, and in the time, the months that come through this season or every season that follows, that we are open to their guidance and their grace. that we understand that these tools are for remembering our own resilience. That each breath, each pause is a way of staying in relationship with our grief rather than being consumed by it. May this carry you through your time ahead. May you remember that you are never separate from the cycles of nature. The same force that moves the tide and stirs the wind, that flames your candle. It's also holding you as you continue to find your way through. Bringing our hands together to meet as we say to each other, Ashe, Amen, Namaste. Thank you. Thank you. You're so welcome.